Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, I suppose I mustn't I? Yes. Strange. If you dig around a bit in the less respectable sources of information on the British media, you do sometimes come to bits that actually written are quite truthful. But of course, it's away from what most of their billionaire owners, non-dom and non-tax-paying, well, decent, upstanding, elitist types want you to see. So was rather pleased vaguely to see this in the Telegraph, of course, which does actually state what we got here. I don't want to hear from British media pundits about notions of democracy, the rule of law, or indeed morality, I don't think. So much for these dreadful, dreadful tales of woe about how it's so appallingly necessary to rescue the Israeli hostages because, well, anyone that supports this kind of thing by the current US administration really needs to ask some serious questions about why exactly it is that they left any sense of decency at the door. Possibly, Possibly. Or maybe not. Well, of course, they won't necessarily do that. Did have to smile at this, talking about the current administration. Elon Musk, name a fascist dictator whose agenda entailed limiting the size, cost and power of government. Well, I can think of Pinochet's Chile for a start. There you go. The entire focus of the whole neoliberal enterprise started there with the brutal American-backed putting down of the Chilean revolution, which meant that the country now has the kind of glorious Thatcherite stuff, which hasn't, over the decades, necessarily made the country the powerhouse that it was supposed to. Still, never mind, we can just try that somewhere else, like across the entire globe, or maybe we could just try it in Argentina, because, after all, if it doesn't work there, we'll just try it somewhere else. It doesn't really matter where we try it, because you may notice that the number of billionaires keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the number of people who are destitute, poor and have no sense of an idealised future that they might live in grows so much more. Oh dear, the mob. It might be quite threatening, so we better not go there. I mean, in particular with the British commentariat, we end up with, I don't know, just things like this, okay? Just think about what's going on with Gaza at the moment, what's going on with the Israeli state, what's going on with Trump, and we get this from the Free Speech Union. Toby Young, Lord Young's, well, Lord Young these days, I suppose, no longer Lord Young's boy, because, of course, magically he's become one of our elder statesmen, hasn't he? Yes. At a recent PMQs, Kemi Badenoch told MPs that Labour's adoption of the APPG on British Muslims' definition of Islamophobia has inhibited public discussion of rape gangs. Okay, I'm expected somehow to respect what Kemi Badenoch says there, but okay, she pointed out, that under this definition, anyone highlighting the overrepresentation of Muslim men in grooming gangs risks being branded an Islamophobe. Oh, that's dreadful. Some Labour MPs, she said, have been scared to tell the truth. She's right, but here's a thread on why the problem runs even deeper. Yes, except, of course, the problem that they outlined doesn't actually manage to mention all the things that they really don't mind, like the RHRA definition. Remember that? Yes, International Holocaust, etc., that we had to adopt because of all those nasty anti-Semites that there were, particularly in the Labour Party, boo hiss. All of them nasty lefty types like me that really hate Jewish people, but somehow are fine with any other group of people. Not quite sure how that works. Still not quite sure how that works because, possibly from my perspective, it's not actually a thing, but obviously I'm foolish like that. But yeah, so many institutions had to, like the Labour Party, not the Conservatives, oddly enough, but various other ones, had to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which means that you aren't allowed, no, mustn't, criticise the state of Israel in any way, shape or form, because that's anti-Semitic. That's absolutely fine. But this stuff isn't. There are a lot of voices out there that are basically going to turn a completely blind eye to the stuff that's coming out of the States, other than to say, isn't that a very good idea? Now, I don't mind it necessarily from Jake Wallace-Simmons or someone like that, because you just expect him from his glorious years of, less than balanced journalism at the Jewish Chronicle to be like that. But by God, it's very, very odd to see these people and the way that their morality only stretches to certain people at certain times when it's politically convenient. And, by God, they don't care about who they throw under the bus. Now, as various people will point out to you, the problem with that is they don't care about you either. And if you think you're special because of the colour of your skin, I might have some various definitions of Islamophobia or indeed anti-Semitism, which kind of basically prove something otherwise. Still, never mind, there's plenty more days left this week when events, dear boy, events can prove us all wrong. It might be nice to see the British Prime Minister standing up and saying that perhaps the rule of international law is quite important, but that might lead on to various other things whereby basically international courts have to be obeyed, and, well, perhaps that takes us back to Pinochet and various prime ministers not really wanting their mates to be prosecuted. They were fascists. We have a long history in Britain, certainly in America, of standing by very, very nasty fascists. People that really were heavily invested, like certain other people who, seem to come from a very, very nasty apartheid states. Yeah, seem to have ideas that just simply because you're into a small government that you're not a fascist. I'm not convinced, I'm afraid. Anyway, do have a lovely one. By God, we're not even there yet. Do you know, it's not even mid-February yet. Gosh, what an interesting year we're going to live through, aren't we? Yes.